This week is Ekev, and it means because. It starts in Deuteronomy 7:12 and all the way to 11:25. It starts off with Moses telling the people what God will do if they keep His commandments. If, because they keep His commandments. So let's start in Deuteronomy 7. Then it will happen as a result of your listening to these ordinances, and you keep and do them. Then Yehovah your God will keep with you the covenant, kindness that He swore to your fathers. He will love you, bless you, and multiply you. He will also bless the fruit of your womb, and the produce of your soil, your grain, and your new wine, and your oil, the increase of your herds, and the young of your flock, in the land that He swore to your fathers to give you. From all peoples He will be blessed. There will not be one male or female barren among you or your livestock. Yehovah will remove all sickness from you, and He will not inflict on you any of the terrible diseases of Egypt that you knew, but will inflict them on all who hate you. I see a lot of people in the church today saying that they have a right to these blessings, that they can partake in these blessings that God has promised. The problem is that they think they have a right to blessings without keeping His commandments. And He makes it so clear right here. He says, because you keep my commandments, if you keep my commandments. I'm going to go through the Torah and see how many times He says, if. So He makes it very clear, if you do these commandments, you will have these blessings. You don't get one without the other. I want to read verses 20 to 26, so it's chapter 7. Moreover, Yehovah your God will send the hornet against them, until the survivors and those in hiding perish before you. You should not be terrified of them, since Yehovah your God is in your midst. A great and awesome God, Yehovah your God will drive away those nations before you, little by little. You will not be able to convince them all at once, or else the peace of the will multiply on you. But Yehovah your God will give them over to you, and He will throw them into great confusion until they are destroyed. He will hand over their kings to you, and you will blot out their names from under the heavens. No man will stand up to you until you have destroyed them all. The carved images of their gods you are to burn with fire. You are not to covet the silver or gold on them, or take it for yourself, or you can be snared by it. It is an abomination to you by your God. You are not to bring an abomination into your house, for you, like it, will be that thing. You must utterly detest and utterly abhor it, for it is set apart for destruction. I want to say something real quick. This is for the people who believe once saved, always saved. He says that Israel is going to blot out their enemies' names. And you could say, well, that's because those people were predestined to hell, or predestined to death. But He tells them too. When Moses is recounting what happened with the tablets and how they served the golden calf, God had just made a covenant with them. A covenant to prosper them, a covenant to be their God, a covenant to preserve them and to make them a great nation. And then they went and made the golden calf, and He was mad enough to blot their names out. So you can't say once saved, always saved. Your name can be blotted out. It depends on what we do, what we choose. In this Torah portion, God cautions Israel not to serve other gods over and over again. Here He says not to take the gold and silver they use to make idols, because those things are set apart for destruction. So just as He set them apart and making them holy means to be set apart to Him, there are other things that are set apart for destruction. And if they bring them into their home, they become set apart for destruction themselves. And this reminded me of the story of Ekev, a man who did this very thing. In Joshua chapter 7, there's a man named Ekev. They weren't supposed to take the silver and the gold from the place that they had just conquered, but he took some and he hid it under his tent. And Joshua had sent men up to Ai to go fight, but they were defeated before their enemies. 3,000 men were defeated before their enemies. And Joshua tore his clothes, he put ashes on his head along with the elders, and he petitioned God to find out why. God told him it's because they put themselves under the ban. But he said, one of you, or he said, someone has taken some of the banned things these things that he's talking about right here in this chapter.
It's trying to come in, I don't know.
One moment.
Yeah.
We have visitors, but they're around the door, guys. Oh, going the wrong way. Looks like this guy.
Go ahead, continue.
Okay. Anyway, so God tells him to bring all the people before him, and he separates out of all the people. He separates the tribe, then he separates the family, then he separates Achan himself. And Joshua tells him to do what you've done, and he says, "Yeah, I took the silver and the gold." He said, "It's buried under my tent." So the whole congregation, all of Israel, gets together and they stone him and they burn gold and silver with fire. But they don't just stone him. They stone his sons. They stone his daughters. They even stone his oxen and his sheep, because he made them all cursed. He made them all set apart for destruction if he did that thing. And Ekev is one of the people who would have been alive to hear Moses saying these words, to hear God saying giving these commands through Moses. But he chose not to heed it. And some people say, "Oh, God was too harsh. I can't believe he did that. He's so mean. The God of the Old Testament, he's so mean and vindictive and evil." But what they fail to realize is that all of Israel suffered because of one man's sin. Just like the 3,000 other people did. Alright, let's move on to chapter 8. This is chapter 8, verses 1 to 6. "You are to take care to do the whole mitzvah that I am commanding you today, so that you may live and multiply and go in and possess the land that Yehovah swore to your fathers. You are to remember all the way that Yehovah your God led you these 40 years in the wilderness, in order to humble you, to test you, to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep this mitzvah or not. He afflicted you in life of hunger, and he fed you manna, which neither you nor your fathers had known, in order to make you understand that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of Yehovah. Neither did your clothing wear out on you, nor did your foot swell these 40 years. Now you know in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, so Yehovah your God disciplines you. So you are to keep the mitzvah of Yehovah your God, to walk in his ways, and to fear him." I have to pause here because God is likening himself to a father who disciplines his child. Those of us who are parents, we know we don't correct our children to be mean, or because we don't like them, or we like doing it. It's for their benefit. He made me laugh that it kept me because I was just telling Jackson to do something yesterday, and he said, "Why?"
Wow.
And I said, "Because I said so." Oftentimes when there's a command that we don't want to do, whether it's eating clean, keeping the Sabbath holy, etc., we try to rationalize and say, "Well, God must have said this because of this. So that's why it's for them and it's not for now." And we'll try to find a loophole to get out of keeping it. And yes, as we read earlier, if we keep his commands and do them, he'll bless us. So that's one reason to keep his commands. But isn't it enough to keep his commands because our Father said so? Isn't it enough that the one who created us and formed us in our mother's womb asked us to? He formed us in our mother's womb, and he had a plan for us before the foundation of the earth. And it's not enough that he said so. It's not enough because he said. Sometimes I think we really need to check our hearts, just like the song was saying, just like it says in the Torah portion, circumcise your hearts. Just as Joshua circumcised the people physically before they went into the land, we need to circumcise our hearts before we come to the promises that God has promised us. There's so much in this Torah portion, and there's a lot more I can say, but there's just one more point I'm going to make. I'm in Deuteronomy 6, verses 6 to 20. "So you are to keep the mitzvah of Yehovah your God, to walk in his ways and fear him. For Yehovah your God is bringing you into a good land, a land of bodies with water, of springs and fountains flowing out from the valleys and hills, a land of wheat, barley, vines, figs, and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey, a land where you will eat bread with no poverty, where you will lack nothing, a land whose stones are iron, and out of those hills you can dig copper. So you will eat and be full, and you will bless Yehovah your God for the good land he has given you. Take care that you do not forget Yehovah your God by not keeping his commandments. Ordinances and statutes that I am commanding you today. Otherwise, when you have eaten and are full, and have built good houses and lived in them, and when your herds and flocks multiply, and silver and gold multiplies for you, and all that is yours multiplies, then your heart will be hardened, and you will forget Yehovah your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of slavery. He led you through the great and terrible wilderness, fiery serpents and scorpions, and thirsty ground where there was no water. He brought forth water for you on the flinty rock. He fed you in the wilderness with manna, that your fathers did not know, in order to afflict you and test you, to do you good in the end. You may say in your heart, my power and the might of my hand has made me this wealth. Rather, you are to remember Yehovah your God, for it is he who gives you power to make wealth, in order to establish his covenant that he swore to your fathers, as it is this day. Now, if you do forget Yehovah your God and go after other gods and serve them and worship them, I solemnly warn you today that you will certainly perish. Like the nations Yehovah makes perish before you, so you will perish, since you would not listen to the voice of Yehovah your God. And he says it again in Deuteronomy 9, verses 4, 6, and 7. After Yehovah your God has driven them out from before you, do not say in your heart, it is because of my righteousness that Yehovah has brought me to possess his land. It is because of the wickedness of these nations that Yehovah dragged them out before you. You should understand that it is not because of your righteousness that Yehovah your God is giving you this good land to possess, for you are a stiff-necked people. Remember, never forget how you provoked Yehovah your God to wrath in the wilderness. From the day you left the land of Egypt until you came to this place, you have been rebellious against Yehovah. And this is the last, I think it's the last one. This is the last one from the Torah portion I'm going to read. This is Deuteronomy 10, verses 13 to 21. To keep the mitzvah of Yehovah and his statutes that I am commanding you today, for your own good, behold, to Yehovah your God belong the heavens and the highest heavens, the earth and all that is in it. Only on your fathers did Yehovah set his affection to love them, and he chose the descendants after them, you, from all the peoples, as is the case this day. Circumcise the foreskin of your heart, therefore, and do not be stiff-necked anymore. For Yehovah is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great, mighty, and awesome God, who does not show partiality or take a bribe. He enacts justice for the orphan and widow, and loves the outsider, giving him food and clothing. Therefore love the outsider, for you were outsiders in the land of Egypt. Yehovah your God, you will fear him. Him you will serve. To him you will cling, and by his name you will swear. He is your praise, and he is your God, who has done for you these great and awesome things that your eyes have seen. God continuously reminds them not to forget him and his commandments, to not think that they have done this by their own hands, because it is time to bring them into the land he has promised for generations. So now I must charge all of you. A couple of years ago, Sandra had a dream that she told us about, and it was about a birthday party, a 40th birthday, or some kind of birthday party, and Sarah was asking people to spend $40 on a gift. And Pastor Deb was in the dream. I'm not going to go into the whole dream because I don't know if I remember the whole thing anyway. But what Sandra had gleaned from the dream was that 40 is the number of testing. But I had a similar but kind of different interpretation of the dream. 40 is the number of testing in the Bible, but it's also the number of how God counts a generation. And what I saw from the dream was Pastor Deb, our previous pastor, God said she's like Moses. He said, but Lance and Sandra, they're like Joshua. Moses brought the Torah, he taught the people. Joshua lives the Torah and brings the people into the promise. There's been promises made to this congregation. And I told Sandra, when I told her the interpretation of the dream, I told her that the wilderness generation is gone. God had to wait for the wilderness generation to die out. But now there's a new generation. There's a Joshua generation. A generation that is ready to take the land. A Joshua and Caleb generation that says, when they see giants in the land, their hearts don't melt. They don't fear. But they go in and they stand on God's promises. And they keep his commands. About a year ago, a little over a year ago, last Shavuot, Pentecost, God had shown me through dreams and different things that my personal wilderness period was coming to an end. But now I believe he's saying this congregation's wilderness period is coming to an end. And the promises that I've given you, you need to cling to them. You need to make sure that you are keeping my commands and that you are walking in my ways. The last part I'm going to read is from Joshua. Come on, guys, sit over here. I'm just reading my version. Joshua. I was wrong. 1, verses 1 to 8. Now it came about after the death of Moses, the servant of Ekev, that Ekev spoke to Joshua, son of Nun, saying, my servant Moses is dead. So now arise, you and all his people, cross over this Jordan to the land that I am giving to them, to the Bnei Israel. Every place on which the sole of your foot treads, I am giving you, as I spoke to Moses from the wilderness, and this Lebanon to the great river, the Euphrates River. All the land of the Hittites to the great sea toward the setting of the sun will be your territory. No one will be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Just as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not fail you or forsake you. Be strong, for you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be very strong and resolute to observe diligently the Torah which Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, so you may be successful wherever you go. This book of the Torah shall not depart from your mouth. You are to meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. For then you will make your ways prosperous, and then you will be successful. By the way, when you say meditate on part of it, or only the parts you like, or only the parts you think are for you today, it says the whole thing, meditate on it day and night. And the Hebrew word there for meditate, in the English we think of meditate as I'm going to think about this. I'm going to have it in my mind only. But the word here for meditate in the Hebrew, it means to think, but also to utter, to speak it so you can hear it. And then this is Joshua 1:10 to 11. Then Joshua commanded the officials of the people, saying, go to the camp and charge the people, saying, prepare for provisions, for within 3 days you will be crossing over the Jordan to go into possess the land of Jacob while your God is giving you to possess it. Now, I'm not saying in 3 days this congregation is going to see all the things that God has promised us. I don't know the exact time frame, and it drives me nuts. I wish he would show me exactly and dates and times and timestamps and everything, but he doesn't. But I know it's close. It's so close, I can feel it. It can touch my face. It's right there. So I'm reminding you, and I'm charging you today to remember Yehova your God and all his commandments that he's commanded you to keep. Don't forget. Don't be like the Israelites. Paul says, what happened to them in the wilderness was shown to us to be an example of what not to do, so that we don't fall into the same snare. Stay strong. Keep your faith. We're coming to the times where you're going to see things that will make your heart melt. But remember, when you see the giants, Yehova your God is with you there. All the songs spoke to you today, all in different ways. Lighthouse, there's a verse, and it's just a small verse that says, I will be with you all this. And we don't have to fear, because God has given us promises. If we cling to him, Well, no, he'll get us through this wilderness, the wilderness that has the scorpions and all these terrible things, right? God wanted to over the Adonai song said, I'll do what you ask of me. And I think that's for you too, and Sandra. Do what you ask of me. Don't say so others can see your face, something like that. Do what he asks of you. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's scary, but don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Remember who you cling to. Remember whose you are. And remember what you can do. Just like he showed everything that he did for the children of Israel in Egypt, how he destroyed all their enemies. I'm sure we can all look back on our lives and see the things he's done for us. See the giants that he's slain by no doing of our own. One of the last songs that I saw was the walls of Jericho crashing down, turning to dust. And I saw the floodgates open. We're coming into something that I'm not saying we're going to live for a promised land. We're going to be moving to Israel. That's not what I'm saying. But the promises that he's made for us, he keeps. He is a waymaker. He is a promise keeper. He's the only God who keeps his promises and keeps his covenants. And he's faithful. That's it.
Hi guys, would you like something to drink? Water? Okay, sure.
You know, Ari, I was having a conversation in my head about the silver and gold that was hidden under the tent.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
And I thought, well, how would you get rid of it? Because if you burn it, you still have it. Because it doesn't just rapidly